Hi, everyone. My name is Chaoru. I'm from Met. I'm an associate professor in smart mobility and transportation engineering. And my topic is about an insight into the transition period of public transport electrification in Europe from a life cycle perspective. The transportation sector contributes approximately 22% of total greenhouse gas emission in European states, quite similar to the research presented by Aoyong. And several European cities and regions in order to accelerate the electrification progress of the public transport system. For example, before 2025, several cities such as Paris, Copenhagen, Berlin, and Madrid and Norway, the government have the plan to abandon diesel vehicles or stop purchasing the conventional buses. And in this study, we explore the life cycle, economic and environmental performance of buses with a different powertrain in European countries, such as the hybrid diesel and the diesel buses. First, we present the vehicle power models, which is used to simulate the energy consumption of the electrical buses and also the gas consumptions of conventional buses and hybrid buses. This is very, as we see, this vehicle power model is a typical power model which is widely applied to estimate the energy consumptions with difference in their, with separation to the battery electric buses and diesel and hybrid buses, which is widely used by existing researchers. Then we introduced a model to model the auxiliary load based on different temperature and location in different countries. So this model includes several parameters. Here, the ICL indicates strict insulation value, which means depends on how much clothes you're wearing. And the TCL is the semi-comfortable temperature of the passengers. So we can calculate the desired temperature of the cabin of the buses. Then, based on that, we can calculate the auxiliary load we probably need of the electric buses. We compare the proposed model with the reference, which is the model developed by Westlanani, which is one from Sweden. So their model is a black box model. So as we can see, our theoretical model is quite close to their trained and well explained the auxiliary load. In the next step, we model the energy consumption of the electric buses. Other than the vehicle power, there are still some loss based on the current and voltage. So we use this formula to calculate the energy consumption of this electric system. As we can see, we compared the model with the ground truth data, which is collected from China. And we can see the model will capture the trend of the energy consumption. Then we conducted a simulation. There are several assumptions. First of all, we give the electric vehicles and mass penalty weight, which is based on the battery size. So the C0 is the battery size. And then we, based on the daily operation hours and mileage of the buses in different countries, according to the ZISUS report, which is an European project which evaluate all the bus performance and daily operation characters. The electrical buses are assumed to charge the battery when the state of the charge is between 30% till 40% in order to keep, in order to have a good performance of their battery life. During the daytime, the bus would stop charging when the SOC reaches 80%, which is based on our real-world data from China. And the overnight charging will charge to full. Here's the table which shows the technical characters of the bus powertrains. These parameters are based on existing research, may not be the most recent, but it's from around 2017 till 2019. And in this study, we considered 4 different driving cycles. The E11 and H550 are from Finland, and Brunswick is from Germany. In the MLB, Milebrook London Transport Buses driving cycle is from England. So we can see they have different characters, different maximum acceleration and maximum deceleration. The most important thing, they have different idle time. For example, the London one, they have 30% idle time, which means they got a lot of stop to pick up and to pick up the passengers. So this framework is developed to compare the performance of all the buses with different powertrains, considering the impact of temperature, daily operation, battery characters, and local energy mix. Then after we do the simulation, we input the results to the life cycle ownership cost models. We annualized the life cycle cost by dividing the annuity factor and some service lives of buses. The cost of operation contains the energy cost and the maintenance cost. Here, the energy cost for electric buses is energy consumption of the electricity, and for the hybrid buses, it includes the diesel, and for the diesel buses, it's gas, also diesel. So, and the cost emission is the different emissions, for example, CO2 and NOx times the social cost. The social cost varies with the country sometimes, but in this study, we used from the existing works, so they are not varying with countries. That's the limitation of this part. And also we calculate the cost of the replacement. It's basically about the battery. So the battery life of each country, they are varied based on their daily operation and weathers. And the salvage value is based on the NREL report. They provide 2 parameters, KH and KU. That's a health factor and the used product discount factor, respectively. The end of life of the battery, we set it as the capacitor loss is 20%. As we have the results here, we can see that both of the electric buses and hybrid buses outperform diesel buses in terms of GHG emission, which supports the policy of abandoning diesel buses by European countries. The results also indicates that electric buses outperformed hybrid buses in terms of GHG emission, greenhouse gas emission, in most of the European countries. However, there are several countries that are not very obvious. For example, in Latvia, the GHG emission performance of the electric buses is quite close to the hybrid buses. And for And moreover, in several countries, the worst case of the GHG emission, the lower side, indicates that the improvement of the electric buses may not lead to fewer emission compared to the hybrid buses. That's basically because of the energy mix. Some of the countries generate dirty electricities, so the dirty energy may not lead to better performance. Here we introduced the electric bus performance index, which is the greenhouse gas emission of the hybrid buses to the difference of the GHG emission of hybrid buses and electric buses divided by the emission of hybrid buses. And we also introduced the replacement parameter. Here, we use the number of electric buses to divide it by the number of conventional buses. Sometimes, in some of the cases, we probably need more than one electric buses to replace one conventional buses. Usually, one hybrid buses can replace one conventional buses in the public transport system and maintaining the same service quality. Therefore, only different replacement ratio of electric buses is considered in this study. This is worst case. We used the replacement ratio is 1.3. So 1.3 electric buses replace one conventional buses, which we can see. The larger of the ratio, it leads to the worse of the electric buses performance. Considering existing constraints of electric buses, the public transport system mixed with hybrid buses and electric buses can be a better solution than a purely electrified system, since the mixed system can have a lower replacement ratio to maximize the environmental benefit of introducing electric buses. The next step of this study is to evaluate the life cycle cost performance. So here shows the battery life of different countries, which is between 5 to 12 years. It's very consistent with the existing research conducted for United States, between 5 years to 13.3 years. And the life cycle cost performance of electric buses and hybrid buses is compared in this figure. Overall, the hybrid buses lead to a significant less life cycle cost ownership, total ownership cost compared to diesel buses and electric buses. But some of the case show that the electric buses in several countries have the potential to outperform the diesel buses in terms of life cycle total ownership cost under a specific condition. And based on one lesson from Germany, which is conducted by Böher and Perger in 2011, public transport service should be financially sustainable while satisfying social needs. Therefore, a public transport system with both battery electric buses and hybrid buses is a potential approach to make the system both financially and environmentally sustainable. So that means we can probably reduce our incentives of the from the government. In order to investigate the situation, we conducted the sensitivity analysis by varying the energy consumption price, by varying the energy price and the emission from the electricity. So the result shows without further financial support from the government, hybrid buses would be the best solution for most countries, considering both the economy and environment benefits. However, in real world, the government would always introduce incentives to support the local application of new technology. And of course, the battery and renewable energy generation are maturing very fast, adjusting the pace of replacing the buses, the public transport system with battery electric buses according to the local condition can maximize the benefits of transport electrification without sacrificing the economic performance. Oh, oops. That's the last page. So in conclusion, in this work, we proposed a framework which integrated the theoretical model of human thermal-comfortable temperature into the energy consumption model. And we also considered the weather and daily operation characteristics and the energy mix of different European countries to investigate the life cycle cost and the emission for different buses. The public transport system with both hybrid and electric buses can be good compensation between financial and environmental needs. And also several EU countries have the potential to reduce or remove the incentives for electric buses. That's all my presentation. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Chaoru, for your presentation. And this is a very big study. And I have already saw 2 questions. And probably you can take a look and respond to the audience.
Yes.
In the chat box. Yeah. The first one is regarding the maximum acceleration deceleration around 2 meters per second, which is very small compared to the traditional cars. And may you please introduce more about the calibration process? And so you have a few numbers like 1.6, 3.5 as the acceleration deceleration, which is indeed quite low compared to for the car. They have maximum deceleration as high as around 7.5, absolute maximum for most cars.
Yes, actually for the E11 and H550, there are 2 bus routes running in Finland. So that's the driver cycles from those 2 are from the real world data. And the other 2 are basically used for the estimation of the bus driver range by European countries. Actually, I didn't calibrate those models. Ideally, I wish I could have the data from different countries to have the driving cycles from different countries to run the model. The real case is that I only have 4 at this time, but I will seek for more. Okay. For the second question, what's the meaning of the social cost? Actually, the social cost is that the harmonies of the emission would lead to. For example, the PM 2.5 would lead to some health issue of the people, and the CO2 would lead to the global warming. So that's determined by the government and several research. Actually, that's the same case as the driving circle. I wish I could have. Of course, they would be vary with the countries. I wish I could have more data based on different countries, but the real case is that I only got those numbers from existing research studies. So I will seek for more.
Yeah. I have one follow-up question regarding the acceleration and deceleration, because just now you mentioned about in the real world data, real world observation, you see the biggest acceleration is like 1.6, 2.5. That is different compared to the maximum acceleration or deceleration, because by exact wording of maximum deceleration, that's like braking capacity on the emergency scenarios. But you very likely for all the observations, you do not have any emergency scenarios. And that's more or less like observation, the biggest observations of deceleration or acceleration during a certain route, right?
Yes.
I think that they are definitely interrelated, but they have some major differences between the biggest number of acceleration in observation and the maximum acceleration or deceleration, because it seems like a braking capacity concept if you use the wording as maximum deceleration, right?
Yes, true.
Yeah. And for the social cost, you use the product of, I think you have like page 6 or probably page 6. You have, can you go back to page 6?
Yes, I think it's here for the social cost.
In page
Yeah.
6,
Yes.
yes, that's one. The cost, you have a social cost times emission. So like the product of emission and social cost is the cost for emission. So why they multiply emission, multiply the social cost here?
Actually, from the model, we have the emission with kilograms of different emission types. So we times it with the social cost.
Okay, understand.
Yeah.
And another question from the audience, also in the chat box. Okay, because you mentioned your assumption is you will have charging activity when the SOC is between 30 and 40%, and which is I also agree as a very strong assumption. So do you have any like basis to support this data, like 30?
Yes, actually, we have the real world running data from this. Of course, the buses would finish the service line. So it's they have 10% variation there, but they set it to no less than 30%.
Oh, that's the limit, right? That's the lowest
Yes.
that's the cutoff
Yes.
for charging. Because I think for this question, they also mentioned about the depth of discharge will affect the degradation ratio of batteries. So usually we have an opportunity charging, and this in Sweden for bus line 55 in Gothenburg, they use the station charging. They charge all the time, no matter how small or how big the battery SOC is. For example, after a journey, the journey is only around I think less than 15 kilometers. So even if the SOC level is around 75%, which is very high, but they still charging, as long as there is the opportunity.
Okay. Yeah. The cases varies with the conditions, and even though in Norway, in Trondheim and in Oslo, they have different charging strategies. So that's based on the charging strategies from Trondheim. So it might varies actually.
Yeah. If you have depot charging and station charging, and they are definitely different from one another.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So any other questions from audience? And does Chaoru answer these 3 questions properly already? Okay, if no other questions, I just have one last comment regarding your salvage value for batteries, because I read a report, I think around three months ago, from a company, they issued a newsletter. I think the salvage value for batteries nowadays is around $40 per kWh. because batteries are used for energy storage purpose. They use that batteries, those used batteries for building energy storage purpose, and they sell it to the building managers like $40 US dollars per kHW. That might help for your calculation. So I can after this meeting I can pass that report to you.
Yes, thank you.